provide you with the lowest per GB rates, night or day. SLT 4G, driving you ever forward.
Making headlines first at 9. Risky position. Navy commander says Sri Lanka's geographical position, just as it is a blessing, is dangerous. Advises to take a cautious path.
The oceans around the country are highly contested by global powers, and being a small player in a global political arena, Sri Lanka has to take a cautious path.
Relieving the pressure, Finance Ministry justifies divestiture of Hyatt and Hilton as projects that cost billions to the government. Budget expectations. What makes a credible budget process? Think tank cites lack of transparency and stakeholder participation as an impediment.
Then it raises the question, what happened to the money and what proposals were not implemented?
A new addition. Government to add a new oil refinery to the Sapukaskan, the Oil Refinery. Cleaning up, SLC Chief Financing Officer arrested by CID over an attempt to commit financial fraud. The blame game is over. Saudi Arabia now admits that journalist Jamal Khashoggi was murdered, calls it a mistake.
Good evening. Bringing you news from across Sri Lanka and around the world on Other Derana 24/7 first at 9. I'm Indi Variamuatta. We begin with your top story tonight. President Maithripala Sirisena has instructed the governors of the northern and eastern provinces to intervene in releasing lands of the region to its first settlers before the end of this year. The said lands were taken under the purview of the Triforces during the period of conflict in the northern and eastern provinces. The President gave the instruction to release the private lands to original owners of those lands during a discussion held at the Presidential Secretariat today.
A discussion on the role and progress of provincial councils for the year 2018 was held at the Presidential Secretariat this morning, with the participation of governors of provinces, chief ministers and secretaries to all provinces. The President advised the chief ministers to contribute towards ensuring successful implementation of poverty elimination programs in rural areas. The head of state also called for commitment from all government agencies in fulfilling goals of the National Poverty Alleviation Program, Grama Shakti. In a separate occasion, President Maithripala Sirisena handed over 1 million rupees to Gihan Hettiarachchi of Bandaranaike Vidyalaya in Gampaha, who developed a rocket that can travel up to 20 kilometers. The President also gave instructions to technical officers at Sri Lanka Air Force to assist Gihan Hettiarachchi in launching the rocket. Meanwhile, President Maithripala attended the commemoration ceremony of the late Prime Minister D.S. Senanayake at the BMICH.
පොදු අපේක්ෂකයා විදිහට 2014 නොවැම්බර් මාසයේ රාජපක්ෂ ආණ්ඩුවෙන් එළියට ඇවිල්ලා එක්සත් ජාතික පක්ෂයත් එක්ක ජනාධිපති වර්ණයට සන්දානගත වෙනකොට කතානායකතුමනි මම හිතාගෙන හිටියේ DS ගේ ඩල්ලිගේ එක්සත් ජාතික පක්ෂයට තමයි මම එකතු වෙන්නේ කියලා. නමුත් DS ගේ ඩල්ලිගේ එක්සත් ජාතික පක්ෂයේ නොවන බව මට පස්සේ තේරුණේ. DS සේනානායක මහතුමා සැබෑ දේශප්‍රේමී. දූෂණය, වංචාව, හොරකම, නාස්තිය ඒවා කිසි දවසකත් ඒ චරිතවල තිබුණේ නැහැ. ඒ නිසා තමයි එක්සත් ජාතික පක්ෂයේ මහා ප්‍රබල යෝධ දේශපාලන පක්ෂයක් බවට ඒවකට ගොඩ නැගුණේ. ඒ නිසා මම බණ්ඩාරනායක මහතුමාගේ ශ්‍රී ලංකා නිදහස් පක්ෂයට ගරු කරනවා වගේම මගේ පක්ෂයට DS ඩඩ්ලි සමරන අද වගේ දවසක මම ප්‍රාර්ථනා කරනවා මේ රටේ අනාගතය සඳහා DS ඩඩ්ලි එක්සත් ජාතික පක්ෂය මේ රටේ නැවත අනාගතයේ බිහි වේවා කියලා. ස්තුතියි.
Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe says the present government has undertaken the largest number of projects to develop the rural economy. Speaking at an event held at the Temple Trees today, the Premier revealed that for the first time in the country's history, over 100,000 projects are in implementation stage at all Grama Niladhari divisions to strengthen the economy.
අද මේ රටේ මේ ලෝකයේම කාරණා දෙකක් හැම ආර්ථිකයකටම බලපාලා තියෙනවා. එකක් තෙල් මිල වැඩි වෙන එක. අනික ඩොලරේ ශක්තිමත් වීම. ඩොලරය ශක්තිමත් වුණාම රුපියල දුර්වල වෙනවා. ඇයි අපි අපනයන ආර්ථිකයන් නෙමෙයි. අද ලංකාවට විදේශ විනිමය අපනයනෙන් ලබා ගන්නට බැරි වෙන. කොටසක් අපිට සිදු වෙනවා ණයට අරගන්න. මෙහෙම ආර්ථික ප්‍රශ්න ඇති වෙන්න ආර්ථික අර්බුද ඇති වෙන්න ගමට බලපානවා. ඒ වගේම තියෙනවා අපේ විමධ්‍යගත අයවැය. විමධ්‍යගත අයවැයෙන් ඒ වැඩ කටයුතු කරගෙන යනවා. විමධ්‍යගත අයවැයට අමතරව ඒ අදාළ අමාත්‍යාංශය ඒ ප්‍රදේශවලට මුදල් ලබලා දීලා තියෙනවා. විශාල වැඩ කොටසක් අද බිම් මට්ටමේ කරගෙන යනවා. ලක්ෂයකට වඩා ව්‍යාකෘති බිම් මට්ටමේ ග්‍රාම නිලධාරී කොට්ටාස්වල සිදු වෙනවා. මේ ලංකාවේ ඉතිහාසයේ වැඩියෙන්ම එක කාලයක කරපු බිම් මට්ටමේ සංවර්ධනය.
Navy Commander Vice Admiral Sirimbewan Ranasinghe insists that Sri Lanka must tread cautiously given the island's geographical position in the Indian Ocean region being highly contested by global powers. Addressing the Galle Dialogue 2018, the Navy Commander also highlighted the importance of adopting blue economy concept in support of Sri Lanka's ambition of becoming a maritime hub in the region.
Galle Dialogue 2018 commenced in Colombo today under the patronage of President Maithripala Sirisena. It acts as a platform for both international and local stakeholders to discuss maritime-related issues including enhancing maritime security cooperation. 146 delegates representing 52 countries and 22 international organizations are participating in the two-day conference organized by the Ministry of Defence and Sri Lanka Navy. This year's conference is themed Synergizing for Collaborative Maritime Management.
Being an island nation located in a central position of the Indian Ocean, adopting blue economy is not optional but mandatory for Sri Lanka. The major advantages for a blue economy include a unique geographical position, high accessibility to ocean resources from a lengthy coastline around the country, closeness to major sea lanes, sovereignty over a significant area of sea compared with the country's land resources, diverse range of coastal and maritime ecosystems, and high potential for tourism and recreational industries. However, these opportunities also have challenges attached to them. The oceans around the country are highly contested by global powers, and being a small player in a global political arena, Sri Lanka has to take a cautious path.
The Minister of Petroleum Resources Development Arjuna Ranathunga today revealed the government's plan to add a new oil refinery to the Sapukaskanda Oil Refinery. Addressing a media briefing in Colombo, the minister also spoke about progressive ongoing projects in the Trincomalee oil tank farm that was handed over to India in year 2003 on lease for a period of 35 years.
Some of these projects discussed with the Indians are getting little slow. Even the tank farm was one of them. But what we have done in the last 6 months, we have spoken to the unions, we have analyzed what are the prospects we have, and according to that, we put a cabinet paper. Our ministry has informed the Treasury to work on the joint venture company, where we will get 50% and LIOC will get 50%. And after that, for the other tanks, when the investor comes, we have to release some of our shares from our percentage.
Meanwhile, the minister also revealed government plans to set up a new oil refinery at Sapukaskanda.
We are looking at building a new refinery. That's the plan we have. Sapukaskanda, yes. We are looking at about 110,000 to 125,000 barrels per day.
Leader of the Pivituru Helorume parliamentarian Udaya Gammanpela urges President Maithripala Sirisena to reduce applicable taxes on fuel as promised in his election manifesto. Gammanpela also pointed out that fuel prices can be brought down by 1/3 of their current retail prices if taxes are reduced, relieving the people of the burden.
According to the price formula given, the government charges 54 rupees as taxes on a petrol litre. At the moment, petrol litre is sold at 155 rupees. If they charge 54 rupees, if they reduce this 54 rupees, then they can of course sell the petrol litre at 101. President Sirisena promised to reduce or rather remove all taxes on fuel in chapter 10 of his election manifesto. If he honors his pledge, we can purchase petrol at rupees 101. Therefore, we urge His Excellency President to please honor your pledge and give this concession to the people. It may be pertinent to mention here that my good friend Honorable P.C. Ranawaka made this slogan, pledge, as his biggest slogan during the presidential election campaign. So my friend, I'm sure, would take the lead in get this pledge honour.
SLPP Chairman Professor G.L. Pires claims that certain decisions taken by the present government inflict long-term damages on the Sri Lanka military. The former Cabinet Minister of External Affairs made this remark addressing a media briefing in Colombo today, commenting on the United Nations request to the Sri Lankan government to immediately repatriate commander of the Sri Lankan contingent to the UN peacekeeping force in Mali based on an alleged human rights record.
යුද්ධයේ අවසාන අදිරේදී 58 වන සේනාංකයට හා ලෙෆ්ටිනන්ට් කර්නල් කලන අමුණුපුර කියන නිලධාරියට විරුද්ධව බොහොම බරපතල යුද අපරාධ කරා කියන චෝදනාව ඉදිරිපත් වෙලා තියෙනවා. කවුද මේ චෝදනාව කරන්නේ? යස්මින් සූකා කියන මුදල් කන්දරාවල් ඩයස්පෝරාවෙන් ලබා ගන්න කාන්තාවක්. ඒතකොට එවැනි පුද්ගලයෙකුගේ වචනය මත තමයි මේ තීරණය ගන්නේ. ලෙෆ්ටිනන්ට් කර්නල් කලන අමුණුපුරව ආපහු ලංකාවට ගෙනෙන්න. මහින්ද රාජපක්ෂ මැතිතුමාගේ නායකත්වය යටතේ තිබුණා නම් අපි අහනවා මොකද්ද මේකට තියෙන සාක්ෂි? රජයේ කිසිම පිටකොන්දක් නැතුව ගන්න මේ පියවර වලින් දීර්ඝකාලීන හානියක් ශ්‍රී ලංකා හමුදාවට සිදුවන බවට කිසිම සැකයක් නැහැ. පූර්ණ රැකවරණය ත්‍රස්තවාදීන්ට දෙන පනතක් තමයි අද පාර්ලිමේන්තුව ඉදිරියේ තියෙන්නේ. ත්‍රස්තවාදියෙක් 25ක් මරුවා මරණීය දඬුවම නෙවෙයි. ත්‍රස්තවාදියා සමාවක් ඉල්ලනවා නම් කිසිම නඩුවක් පැවරීමෙන් වැළකී සිටීමට පූර්ණ අභිමතයේ නීතිපතිතුමා සතු වෙනවා.
2017 වර්ෂයේදී ඉන්දු ශ්‍රී ලංකා අවබෝධතා ගිවිසුමේ ප්‍රකාරව ක්‍රියාත්මක කළ යුතු දේවල් ක්‍රියාත්මක නොවීම නිසා අගමැතිතුමා කනස්සල්ලෙන් පත් වෙනවා ඉන්දියා අගමැති. කොළඹ වරාය නැගෙනහිර පර්යන්තේ මත්තල ගුවන්තොටුපොළ තිරුකුණාමලයේ තෙල් ටැංකිටි කංකසන්තුර වරාය මේ සියල්ල විකුණන පිඹුරුපත තමයි සකස් කරලා තියෙන්නේ. එතකොට මේක නොලබුණු නිසා තමයි අගමැතිතුමා කනස්සල්ලෙන් පත් වෙන්නේ.
Meanwhile, leader of the Socialist Alliance, Professor Tissa Vitarna, says that by further strengthening India's role in Sri Lanka by promising the Mattala airport and the Trincomalee oil tanks can be harmful for the country. He made these remarks at a media briefing in Colombo today.
Through the AXA agreement, the right of America to make use of any base in this country, any airfield in this country for its own military purposes is permissible. Sri Lanka is being asked to play a part of the game that America is playing internationally. Now India is also a part of that. The fact that RAW is involved in this process is something that has come out in the course of the investigation, and India very promptly said that the person who came from India and made those statements incriminating RAW is mentally unsound, so that the defense is already prepared to safeguard this RAW agent. The Mattala airport, the fact that the Trincomalee oil tanks are going to be given to India is also a further strengthening of the importance given to India and its role, which can be both independent as well as part of the total process of American control and utilization of our country for their purpose.
An official event was held today to welcome the new Chief Justice Nalin Pereira at the Supreme Court. Attorney General and President's Counsel Jayantha Jayasuriya and the President of the Bar Association of Sri Lanka, U.R. De Silva, were among those who were present at the ceremony. Subsequently addressing the event, the new Chief Justice Nalin Pereira assured that he would take all necessary measures to ensure the public trust and the autonomy of the judiciary. Chief Justice Nalin Pereira further commented that in order to ensure public trust towards the judicial system, it is vital to ensure its impartiality, and the public should also heed to judicial processes.
You are watching Sri Lanka's award-winning news channel, Derana 24/7.
In the run-up to the 2019 budget reading, which takes place in nearly 2 weeks, we at First at 9 will speak to experts, academics and industry stakeholders on what should be prioritized in the economic document that is vital for the development of the country in the next fiscal year. On the first installation of our segment, Budget Expectations, think tank Verite Research is of the view that strengthening systems of monitoring and oversight are a must to enhance transparency and credibility of the budget. The research group also questions the integrity of budget implementation process as well as the overall management of public funds, and therefore calls on the government to address these areas in the 2019 policy document.
We realize there is significant discrepancy between what the government allocates each year for sectors and how much they actually spend at the end of the year. So this underspending somehow indicates that some of the activities the government obviously planned or promised to carry out for the development of the sector obviously was not implemented. Then it raises the question, what happened to the money and what proposals were not implemented? And when you look at the information available out there, you realize actually there's very little information about specific proposals. Because if an agency hides information, that suggests there can be either mishandling of the funds or lack of implementation of the proposal altogether. Also, the agencies not having any obligation to be open about these proposals and not being mandated to report progress of this process to the public can also lead to mishandling and corruption, because when there is no transparency, you really don't know what happened to that money and how it was spent. Over time, people have become quite cynical about the budget speech and the budget proposals. That whole exercise has lost a lot of credibility, which is not very good for overall economic management of the country. We would really like governments to put a lot more emphasis on the planning stage of the budget. Even in the last speech, we were a bit encouraged when we saw the Ministry of Finance saying they're admitting that there are issues in implementing the proposals listed out in the speech, and we've realized that they wanted to have their own monitoring unit. But unfortunately, we could not get any information from the monitoring unit, and responses we've received from the ministry, especially the budget department, gives us conflicting views about even the existence of such a unit. So I think one of the ways that the government can actually do is to ensure that the government agencies actually produce these action reports, progress reports, and submit these reports on time, strengthening that system of monitoring and oversight and not allowing ministries to basically get away by not reporting information on time and also strengthening their own monitoring and oversight is something that will really help change overall budgeting process and enhance the credibility of budgets as a valuable economic document.
Still in business news, issuing a media release today, the Sri Lankan Ministry of Finance and Mass Media said that the Cabinet of Ministers has decided to divest Hilton and Hyatt hotels, which are non-strategic holdings of the government, and called for private investors to complete the construction of the Hyatt Hotel and the improvement of the Hilton Hotel. Defending their decisions, the Ministry of Finance noted that the Hyatt Hotel, which is partially completed, has so far cost the Employees Provident Fund, Sri Lanka Insurance and Litrogas, all state-owned organizations and accountable to the people, over 15 billion rupees. Furthermore, the communique went on to note that the Hyatt Hotel has to be divested to a reputable investor with the financial strength to complete the hotel without this being a burden to the state. Meanwhile, the communique stated that although the Hilton Hotel is seen as a profitable hotel, it will have to undergo refurbishment to the tune of 4 billion rupees to reach its full potential in order to compete with newer hotels. The communique further went on to note that as a government-owned enterprise, the hotel does not have the financial strength to undertake these new investments, and if it does, the government will have to fund this to expensive loans taken. Commenting on the divesting process, the ministry stated that the government will appoint an independent financial advisor and with officers globally reputed who has experience in divesting hotel assets. Following this process, a cabinet-appointed negotiating committee will also be appointed to overlook the divestiture process. Given the severe repercussions of the rupee depreciation on the Sri Lankan economy, Secretary to the Ministry of Industry and Commerce, Ranjit Asoka, calls for policy intervention to spur local production targeting exports.
Sri Lanka's first SME legal stock-taking study report was presented to the Ministry of Industry and Commerce by ENY Limited today.
The income of a country is dependent on the quality of the goods and services, the quantity of goods and services produced, and productivity of those producing mechanisms. Therefore, in a country like Sri Lanka, where more industries represent from the SME, all efforts should be taken to facilitate those investors by reducing the barriers in order to produce more to have a better living standard. Not only that, when we analyze the present economic situation, we are in a very critical situation. People are talking about dollar exchange rate increasing. We have to talk all efforts to produce more quality goods, matching only not for the Sri Lankan market, but also targeting more foreign markets through exports. Today, a dollar is around 172 rupees. Our trade deficit is increasing, and the trade balance is in high negative balance.
Taking you to the stock market, the all share price index ended 0.99% firmer at 5,766, edging up from its lowest close since the 28th of November in 2013, hit on Friday. Market turnover was 214.1 million rupees today, less than a third of its year's daily average of 765 million rupees. Foreign investors were net sellers of 59.3 million rupees worth of shares, extending the year-to-date net foreign outflow to 9.1 billion rupees worth of equities. We have Achyutan Srirangan from First Capital Holdings for today's market update.
Bros ended in a green, mainly supported by Big Cap, John Keel's and Ceylon cold stores. Both volume and turnover have increased, while nearly 38% of turnover was derived from Melstar. A net foreign outflow witnessed for the 8th consecutive day with a high foreign participation.
And the Sri Lankan rupee dropped 0.4% to an all-time low of 173.38 per dollar, surpassing its previous low of 172.60 hit on Friday, mainly due to imported demand for the greenback. The currency has weakened 2% so far this month after a 4.7% drop in September against the dollar. It has dropped 12.4% so far this year. Here's a look at how the Sri Lankan rupee traded against other currencies during the day. And in news overseas, we take a look at news from Boston. In Moscow, U.S. National Security Advisor John Bolton is in Moscow for talks after Russia gave a frosty reception to the announcement by the United States that they will pull out from the Intermediate Range Nuclear Forces Treaty. President Donald Trump told that Russia violated the treaty by developing a new medium-range missile. Bolton is reported to have been a key voice pushing for the withdrawal. He is due to meet senior officials during his pre-planned visit, but many now, or rather may meet President Vladimir Putin as well. The U.S. National Security Advisor began his visit today. The Kremlin warned it would take steps to maintain the balance of nuclear power. Russia has always denied any violations of the treaty, but has accused Washington of violations in return. And in your top news overseas, Saudi Arabia blames the killing of journalist Jamal Khashoggi on a rogue operation, given a new account of an act that sparked global outcry. Foreign Minister Adel Al-Jubeir told Fox News that the murder had been a tremendous mistake and denied the powerful Crown Prince had ordered it.
Following Saudi Arabia's acknowledgement on Friday that journalist Jamal Khashoggi had been killed inside its consulate in Istanbul, the Arab nation now accepts the incident to be murder. For 18 days, Saudi authorities had maintained that Khashoggi was last seen leaving the building alive. Speaking to Fox News yesterday, Saudi Foreign Minister Adel Al-Jubeir promised that those who are responsible will be punished. Adel Al-Jubeir's comments describing the incident as murder are some of the most direct to come from a Saudi official.
An authoritarian government. You're saying that the Crown Prince, Mohammed bin Salman, did not know about this?
Well, Brett, first of all, we're not an authoritarian government. We're a monarchy. We have our checks and balances. We have our systems. The individuals who did this outside the scope of their authority. There obviously was a tremendous mistake made, and what compounded the mistake was the attempt to try to cover up. That is unacceptable in any government.
Turkish officials believe Khashoggi, a prominent critic of the Saudi government, was murdered by a team of Saudi agents inside the building and say they have evidence to prove it. Meanwhile, Jamal Khashoggi's fiancée Hatice Cengiz, who raised the alarm about his disappearance after waiting for him for hours outside the consulate, has been given 24-hour police protection by the Turkey government.
You are watching Sri Lanka's premier news channel, Other Derana 24/7.
In sports, we have news of the SLC. Sri Lanka Cricket's chief financial officer has been arrested by the Criminal Investigation Department over an attempt to commit a financial fraud. Last month, the SLC was able to successfully avoid a fraudulent attempt to transfer $5.5 million of SLC's media rights sponsorship funds to an unknown account which was due from an international media network. The SLC's chief financial officer was later found as the main suspect in the alleged fraud and was removed from his position.
You are watching Sri Lanka's #1 news channel, Other Derana 24/7.
A very good evening and welcome to Forecast First. Starting off with your temperatures for tomorrow that vary between 20 and 30 degrees Celsius with a highest of 30 expected in Batticaloa. Well, when looking at the map, a low pressure zone will develop in the central hills and will gradually spread throughout the island. Moving on to your rain forecast for tomorrow, most parts of the upper region of the island will experience showers with thunder activity also expected. Well, it is the same scenario in the lower region of the island as most parts will experience thunder showers. That's all from the Weather Centre tonight. Up next is your city by city forecast.
That's all from us here at First at 9. But before we go tonight, we'd like to leave you in Karudia Pokuna, located in the picturesque city of Kandalama. The archaeological site, located in a jungle area, is said to have been built by King Saddhatissa between 137 to 139 BC. Hope you enjoy these visuals. Have a pleasant evening. Good night.
Bringing you the news and information 24 hours a day. This is Sri Lanka's premier news channel, Other Derana 24/7.